The town that dreaded sundown. A true story.
Welcome to the Crack House Chronicles, your favorite true crime podcast. I am Donnie, and with me is a man that's still upset with Bob Ross for making him believe that painting was that easy. That's Dale.
I'm telling you.
The man was great, wasn't he?
He's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sold a lot of paint.
He did.
All you got to do is slap it on there. Look at here. Flap, flap, flap.
Oh, yeah. He'd take that little brush and just do anything with it.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah.
Watch the documentary. He kind of got railroaded, didn't he?
He did. It was sad.
Awful. Yeah.
I still enjoy watching him.
Oh, yeah, I love him. Don't get me started on that other crowd.
Yeah.
We'll have a 2-hour podcast about me bitching about them people shitting him on.
Yeah, and the son didn't get a thing.
I know.
What's going on today, dude?
Oh, same old, same old.
Same old, recording on a Friday?
In the house.
In the house, I mean.
In the house, man.
Yeah.
Doing it up.
Man, we got a good episode today.
I hope so.
We do. We got a really good episode, and it's...
We don't plan on shooting out a bad one, do we?
No, we try to do good every time. Every time we do an episode, we try to do a good one.
That's right.
But this come from a request.
It did. Our good buddy, Dale Elmore, or as everybody knows, Dale from Shelby.
Dale from Shelby. Yeah.
Yeah. He hit me up and asked me if we'd ever covered this, and I was like, no, we sure ain't.
No.
We'll look into it, and it's pretty good, I think. Anyway, he hit me up and said, you guys covered this before? And I was like, no. And he said, the Phantom Killer, which was the thing that they made the movie, The Town That Dreaded Sundown, was kind of based off of that, kind of, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
So I immediately pulled it up and watched the movie.
Yeah.
Well, it was pretty good, even though it was a, 1970-something flick.
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
Then they made a remake, I think it was in 2014.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, made a remake, yeah.
Said remake / sequel.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I haven't watched that one yet. But anyway, I thought the first one was pretty decent for what it was. And a lot of that stuff would remind you of Friday 13th Part 2, the Baghead, you know.
Yeah, you showed me a still from it from the movie, and I was like, is this Friday 13th?
Right.
No, it's The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Right. So anyway, it was pretty good. So.
But I want to give a shout out. You mentioned Dale Elmore, Dale from Shelby.
Yeah.
Go check out his YouTube channel. You just search Dale from Shelby.
Dale from Shelby.
Yeah, he does some videos around and some interesting things, and
he does a lot of stuff, man.
He really does.
He records everything he can, and I mean, he does a lot of work. So
very informative.
Him, yeah.
But
and it goes back a long way.
Yeah.
I'll
put a link to Dale from Shelby's YouTube channel in our show notes, so we'll give him a little credit for that.
Yeah.
But
he's a big fan and friend of the show from way back.
Way back, yeah. No doubt.
We appreciate you.
Mm-hmm. But we're going to get into this episode, man, because this is, we're talking about the Texarkana Moonlight Murders. And Dale, this tale has been called different things.
Yeah, a lot.
The Phantom Killer.
Phantom Slayer.
Phantom of Texarkana. So it's he's been dubbed many names.
Right, and most of them were on accident.
But we're going down to Texarkana, and just a little bit of background on Texarkana.
First, get into the name and get that over with.
Yeah.
Because this is the first thing I was going, why in the hell is it called
That's
this?
what I'm saying, the background of Texarkana.
Yeah.
Yeah, Texarkana, it was founded in 1873, and it was on the junction of two railroads. And the name is a combination of Texas, Arkansas, and nearby Louisiana.
Right, which is probably the part that throws everybody.
Yeah, the Anna part.
Yeah, because you're like, if it's Texarkana, then why is it not Texas and Arcana instead of Arkansas? And you're like, well, I know there's not a S and stuff at the end, but then it goes, oh, the Louisiana comes in at the end, and that makes sense.
Yep. And it's on the border of Texas and Arkansas.
It's kind of crazy.
It is.
The town, just actually two towns, I guess.
Yeah.
Are they sister towns, or how do they?
There's one town, but it's split, and they have two separate governments for that town, which is weird.
Yes. I guess neither one wanted to give it up, so we'll just share.
Yeah, you have your half, and I'll have my half. It's like two kids sharing a bedroom, put a line down the middle.
There you go. Piece of tape.
Yeah. This is your side, this is my side.
Stay off of it.
And Louisiana didn't get anything.
Yeah, it's only like, what, 24 miles, I think, from there to Louisiana border.
Yeah.
So I guess they get the border, state border.
So they added the Anna part for Louisiana.
Just to be nice.
But
inclusion.
Yeah. But today we're talking about like I said, the Texarkana Moonlight Murders. And man, I got to researching this after watching some of the movie, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's the movie is based on this true story that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, loosely.
Yeah. But the story we'll tell you is what happened.
The real deal.
The real deal, yeah.
As far as close as we can get it.
Now, the Texarkana Moonlight Murders, they consisted of 4 violent attacks, and they occurred over 10 weeks from February to May in 1946.
Right.
So we're going back a ways.
Just a little.
Yep. And they occurred in and around Texarkana, like we talked about.
That'd be a good reason to call it that.
Yeah. And these attacks, they targeted couples that were in isolated locations on weekend nights.
Lover's Lane.
Yeah. And the first attack occurred on February the 22nd. And this was around 11:45 p.m. This was on a Friday night. And this is when Jimmy Hollis, he was 25 years old, and he was out with his girlfriend, Mary Jean Larry. She was 19.
Right.
And I think they'd been to the movies that night.
Yeah, they'd been on a double date with his brother and his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And they went out to watch the brand new release of The House of Dracula.
Oh, with Lon Chaney.
With Lon Chaney.
Oh, man.
So now we have to go watch that.
Yeah, we'll have to go watch it. But the two couples parted ways after the movie.
Yeah, the brother and the girlfriend, they lived on the other side of town from where he had to take his girlfriend back. So they wanted to go ahead and be dropped off. So they gladly obliged and took them home first. That way they could get a little alone time.
Yeah. But Jimmy Hollis and his girlfriend Mary Jean Larry, they left and they went to go parking. Yeah, the Lover's Lane area.
You better go ahead and explain what that is.
Yeah, this were couples back then. They didn't know where to go, so they hit a dirt road or a back road somewhere and had some alone time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way we did things.
That's right.
Yep. But they went to a secluded road. It was just outside of Texarkana, Texas, after having seen that movie together. And this Lover's Lane was approximately 300 feet from a last row of city homes that was in that area.
So it ain't really way out in the boondocks, is it?
No, it's just, I guess just a
Around
little
the corner.
Yeah, a little secluded area. Nobody went too much. So after they got there to this Lover's Lane spot, it was about 10 minutes after they got there, they were in a car, and a man wearing a white cloth mask that was described as a pillowcase with the eye holes cut out.
Yeah, pretty creepy.
Yeah, it appeared at the driver's side door
Right.
that Jimmy was sitting on.
I think Jimmy, when somebody first hit the window, he thought it was going to be the cops.
Yeah,
And he looked up, and then this guy see that white hood and a flashlight in your face.
yeah. Jimmy Hollis told the man that he had the wrong person.
Yeah.
And the man responded, he said, "I don't want to kill you, fella,
Yeah, and he had a gun, too.
so just do what I say."
So when he looked over and seen the flashlight, and then beside the flashlight, there's a gun pointed at him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is when Jimmy and Mary Jean, they were ordered out of the car.
Yes.
And the man ordered Jimmy to take off his goddamn britches. His words, not mine.
Right.
Yeah.
Quote.
Yeah.
There you go.
And after...
You know he didn't want to do that. They've been
No, well...
Anyway.
You have a gun put in your face, that's going to be a game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll just leave it at that. So after he got out of the car, he told him to take his pants off, and Jimmy done what he said.
Yeah, first he told me he would not do it. He thought the guy was like pulling some kind of gag or something. And the other guy, and then he told him, he said, "You do it or I'll kill you."
That's right.
And then that's when Mary Jean kind of said, "Yeah, you might want to do what he says." So he started pulling on his sleeve and said, "Yeah, do what he says."
So he took his pants off, and that's when the man struck Jimmy twice in the head with a firearm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mary Jean later told investigators that the noise was so loud of him being hit in the head, she actually thought that Jimmy had been shot.
Almighty, dude. Can you imagine?
Yeah, but in fact, she just heard that his skull was, she just heard it fracturing.
Yeah. It fractured in a couple places.
Man, can you imagine the sound in his head, though?
No, I mean, good Lord.
Yeah.
It just crumpled him. That's a heck of an impact.
But Mary Jean was thinking this masked man or whatever he was just trying to rob him.
Yeah.
And she got Jimmy's wallet out of his pants and showed him that, we didn't have any money.
Right.
Jimmy don't have any money. And it was that time that she was struck with a blunt object. And that's when
I wonder if that was the gunner. Think so?
I don't know, because he had a flashlight and a gun.
It had to be one or the other, I guess.
Exactly. But the assailant ordered Mary Jean to stand up, and when she did, he told her to run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Run away.
Yeah. And initially, Mary Jean tried to run toward a ditch, but the assailant ordered her to run up the road.
So he's just getting off on this. He's just hunting her.
Yeah, it sounds like
It ain't you're going to get away, run away, and go home.
But Mary Jean spotted an old car parked off the road and found it empty.
What do you think? I think it's his car.
Could be.
I think that's why else would it be sitting there?
That's a very good point.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's a very good point.
I mean, why else is there be a car sitting there that nobody was in?
But again, Mary Jean was confronted by the attacker who asked her why she was running.
Yeah.
And that's when she told him that he had told her to do so.
Yeah, and he told her she was a liar.
And then he knocked her down and sexually assaulted her with the barrel of his gun.
Yeah.
Not good.
No.
Not good at all.
No.
Now, after he was sexually assaulting her, she told him, said, why don't you just kill me? And that's when he just ran away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
she told him, just kill me because I'd rather you do that than this, I guess. But,
exactly.
So that's weird. Why would he just run away?
I don't know.
He's right. He's got what he wants right here.
Yeah.
Or I would think. I mean, why else would he even be out here? He didn't want money. He didn't want the guy because he smashed him in the head to take him out and chase her down, which give him the thrill of the hunt. Run her down. He's got her. He's going to do what he's going to do, but he does it with his gun.
Yeah.
And then lets her go.
That's just weird.
Yeah.
And what's the whole deal making Jimmy take his pants off? I don't understand that at all, unless they just
That's what I don't know, Telly. That's what I'm saying. I don't.
humiliate him or something, or
Yeah.
make
I
it,
guess.
I don't know, have his pants down around his legs where he can't run, or around his feet where he can't run.
Possibly. Well, yeah. I mean, it could be a good, take out loud.
Yeah, slow you down.
Probably just so he had to bend down, and when he did, he cracked him in the head with the gun.
But after Mary Jean was sexually assaulted, Jimmy Hollis had regained consciousness and alerted a passing motorist, who also called the police. And within about 30 minutes, the Bowie County Sheriff, his name was W.H. Presley, who went by Bill, and 3 other officers arrived at this scene, but the assailant had already left. But Mary Jean Larry was hospitalized overnight for a minor head wound, and Jimmy Hollis was hospitalized for several days to recover from multiple skull fractures.
Several days is getting out easy, sounds like to me.
Sounds like, yeah.
That's serious.
Yeah. Hit twice in the head.
Several fractures is not good.
No. But Jimmy Hollis and Mary Jean Larry, they gave slightly different descriptions of this attacker. Mary Jean claimed that she could see under this mask that he was wearing, and he was a light-skinned African-American male. And Jimmy, he claimed that the attacker was a tanned white male around 30 years old, but he couldn't see any distinguishing features that he had. It was, I guess, having the flashlight in his eyes.
I don't see how either one of them can see too much.
No.
They're out in the dark in the woods. I mean, I'm sure she was she probably seen a little more up close than he did, just because of the assault.
Yeah, attacked the second time.
But you're in the dark. All I can probably think you're gonna be is seeing his eyes through the hole in that mask.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know.
But both agreed that this assailant was around 6 feet tall, and law enforcement repeatedly challenged Mary Jean's account and believed that her and Jimmy knew who their attacker was and were covering for him.
Yeah, and I think that came up because of the discrepancy in their story too. They were saying, well, maybe they're just giving different stories to throw us off, but maybe they know who it is. But I don't buy that, dude.
Mm-mm.
Why? None of this makes sense, because you know what comes later. So why would you cover for somebody who's doing this if you knew who it was?
Yeah, I know.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
And to be out there, you and I talked about this, for somebody to be out there at this Lover's Lane spot waiting on somebody, were they waiting? Because to me, the only people that would known them being out there was Jimmy's brother.
Well, they probably wouldn't have known.
No, unless
they probably didn't tell him, He might have told his brother just because bragging rights or something.
Yeah, we're going parking or something.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to drop y'all off. I'm going to take her parking or something. But yeah, but then again, if it's, he said it was only 300 feet from a house or something. He could have been riding up and down the road and seen somebody pull in. He could have been waiting. I don't know. It is odd. It's not like a case of where he followed them from the movies home or something, because they went somewhere else first, right?
That's true.
Yeah, so none of that fits.
But I agree with you. That car that she saw that didn't have anybody in it could have been the assailant's car.
I think so.
Yeah.
And maybe he's seen them turn in.
And parked up the road.
Maybe drove by and then come back, turned his lights off and turned in behind them, because they're not going to be paying any attention if he parked up the road. They're getting busy or doing whatever they do, sitting there talking or whatever they're not doing.
I know.
So they're not paying attention, and then all of a sudden he shows up. Yeah.
All right, we're going to get into the second incident.
This is what we moving like 3 weeks down the road, right?
Yeah, and this is March the 24th, 1946. This is when Richard Griffin, who was 29, and his girlfriend he had for 6 weeks, her name was Polly Ann Moore, and she was just 17. They were found dead in Jimmy's car on the morning of Sunday, March the 24th by a passing motorist. Now, this motorist saw the car parked on Lover's Lane. This was about 100 yards south of U.S. Highway 67 West in Bowie County.
Now it says a Lover's Lane, so is this a different one?
Evidently so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're not in the same area.
I'm pretty sure this was a different Lover's Lane.
Okay.
Now, Griffin was found between the front seats on his knees with his head resting on his crossed hands and his pockets turned inside out. Now, his girlfriend, Polly Ann Moore, was found sprawled face down in the back seat. And there is evidence that suggests that she was placed there after being killed on a blanket outside the car.
Oh, yeah, because there was blood and stuff everywhere on the outside of the car and around, out on the ground.
Now, Richard Griffin had been shot twice inside the car. Both had been shot in the back of the head, and both were fully clothed.
So I wonder why he's on his knees.
I don't know, man.
He probably made them both get out and then made him crawl back in, maybe.
Could have.
I don't know. I just have a hard time trying to make sense of stuff.
I know, because these incidences are very strange.
Yes.
But there was a blood-soaked patch of earth near the car that suggested to police they'd been killed outside the car and placed back inside the car.
Right.
The congealed blood was found covering the running board, and it flowed from the bottom of the car door.
So it had come from inside to out.
Yes, it was going out. There was also a .32 caliber cartridge casing that was also found.
Yeah, they found it. It was wrapped up in a blanket.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I guess he left it.
But no reports indicate that either Griffin or Moore was examined by a pathologist, unless they were examined and they just kept that information secret. Now, Dale, there were some local rumors stating that Polly Ann Moore had been sexually assaulted.
Right, which makes sense to me. I mean, he did it once, even with a gun barrel, right?
Yep.
And in this one, they found the blood stains, outside. So I'm sure. Well, I'm not sure. I shouldn't say that. But anyway, so they found the blood stains and all, or the blood-soaked earth, as you said, outside. So that would be something that happened outside the car. And then they found the bullet casing in the blanket. So I'm thinking he probably, like you said, made them both get out before and either made him get back in and killed him and then assaulted her outside on this blanket and then done what he done to her, which would cause the blood, and then made her get back in the car or himself put her back in the car with the blanket. And that's how he lost the bullet casing, right?
Yeah, it could be. But, there was, like we said, there was no report to indicate that whether the Griffin and Moore were examined by a pathologist,
right.
But I'm almost thinking they would have been, and the information they found was too gruesome to talk about.
Either that or that's something they kept to themselves because, they're not going to tell you everything.
That's true.
Because they got to keep something to weed out.
False confessions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, 3 days after this murder, the sheriff's office had already questioned like 50 to 60 people about this murder and tracked down about 100 false leads trying to do this. They're out here busting their butt trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
It's just a big mystery. And then eventually they even posted a $500 reward for any information, but they got nothing that they could use.
Yeah.
And then they said that they had it in the paper that day. It was talking about what had happened and how they dealt with it, talking about the crimes involving rape or sexual deviancy or anything, but it didn't say. They kind of skipped over. They didn't use the word rape. They stayed away from that. They would use like criminal assault and stuff like that. So even though the telltale signs were there that it actually happened, they didn't really let that out.
Yeah. All right. We're going up to the third incident, Dale.
Okay.
And this was on April the 14th of 1946. And this was around 1:30 a.m. It was on a Sunday. And this is when Paul Martin, who was 17 years old, picked up Betty Jo Booker from a musical performance at the local VFW club.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Betty Jo played in a band.
Yes.
This was called the Rhythmaires.
The Rhythmaires.
Now, I just wanted to give a little bit of background on this part too. I thought it was really fascinating because Betty Jo was playing saxophone in this band, and the band usually consisted of all male players, but most of the guys were off to the war, fighting in the war.
Right.
And Betty Jo was so good at the saxophone, they invited her to play in the band.
Yeah, I think there was a couple girls in the band at this point.
Yeah.
And most of them who were there, they had to get, the only way they could get the okay from their mothers, it was because a lot of times they played stuff places they probably didn't want them to be, was for the guy who run the band, who had a really, really good reputation, Jerry Atkins.
Yes.
He had to promise them that he would take them to and from each show himself, to take care of them girls.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Which is kind of ironic how it ends up here.
But like I said, they were at this VFW club. It was on West 4th and Oak Street in Texarkana.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
they were playing the big band sounds.
They
which
were.
Is what they loved down at the VFW club.
Very, very cool. But Paul Martin's body was found at around 6 a.m. later that morning. He was lying on his left side in the northern edge of North Park Road, and blood was found on the other side of the road by a fence. And he'd been shot 4 times through the nose, through the ribs, from behind, in the right hand, and through the back of his neck.
Mm.
Now, Betty Jo Booker, her body was found by a search party at around 11:30 a.m., just, several hours later.
Yeah.
Almost 2 miles away from where Paul Martin's body was found.
2 miles.
Yeah, and her body was behind a tree and lying on its back. She was fully clothed, and it was posed with the right hand in the pocket of a buttoned overcoat. But Betty Jo had been shot twice, once through the chest and once in the face.
Damn.
And the weapon used was the same as the first double murder.
32?
Yeah, 32 Colt
I
pistol.
wonder if they found any shell casings there.
I don't know. If they did, they didn't release it.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess they got the slugs. Now,
Martin's car was found about 3 miles from Betty Jo's body.
So, what do you think? He put him in his own car and took him somewhere else?
Could have. And it was parked outside Spring Lake Park with the key still in the ignition.
Right. Now, Spring Lake Park was more in town than these
yes,
other
it was.
places because, and it's kind of like a thing from the movie, I guess, where I picked this up, that they were talking about, they knew what was going on, but and I know the movie just takes whatever liberties they need to make the story good, but that they decided to go to this place because it was more in town and they thought it would be safer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the authorities weren't sure which one was shot first. Now, Sheriff Bill Presley and a Texas Ranger, his name was Manuel T. Gonzalez, said the examinations of the bodies indicated they both put up a heck of a fight.
Right.
Now, Paul Martin's friend, his name was Tom Albitron. I'm pretty sure that's how you say his name. He said he didn't believe there was an argument that had happened between the victims and that Martin
So basically,
didn't have any enemies.
right? Yeah. So basically, he's saying they didn't kill each other,
Yeah,
and nobody, and he did. It wasn't an enemy who done it. It's another random killing.
just a random person.
I think
yeah.
that's what we're trying to get from that.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of Manuel Gonzalez, when all this has happened, he was a Texas Ranger. When he came onto the scene, he came in. He was a really well known, and he was known as the Lone Wolf.
Flamboyant too.
Oh yeah, and said he was a very handsome man, if that means anything. Anyway, he said that the first thing he did, he come in and took over the investigation, and his first act was to issue a bulletin. It stated, "Wanted for murder. Persons are persons unknown for the murder of Betty Jo Booker and Paul Martin on or about April 13th, 1946 in Bowie County, Texas. Subject or subjects may have in their possession or may try to dispose of a gold-plated Bundy E-flat alto saxophone," and he gives a serial number, which was missing from the car where these victims were last seen. The saxophone had been rebuilt, replated, and repadded, and was almost new in a black leather case with its blue plush lining. Anyway, so basically they're saying that the sax was missing from the scene here.
Yeah, Betty Jo's saxophone that she played that night at the VFW.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even going back to her mama said that usually they would bring that thing home before they even went out on the town, but on this night was different.
Yeah.
I guess he didn't really have time.
Yeah, you gotta go park.
said it is requested that a check be made of all music stores and pawn shops. Any information as to this location of this saxophone or description and whereabouts of the persons connected with it should be forwarded immediately to the Sheriff, Bowie County, Texarkana, Texas, and the Texas Department of Public Safety in Austin, Texas.
I think there was a guy that actually went into a pawn shop trying to pawn off a saxophone at one point, and they got to looking into him, and he got nervous and left.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went in and tried to sell it, and the lady at the counter went to get the manager. The guy kind of got all nervous and ran out the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're moving up to the fourth incident, Dale.
Before we get into that, what do you think about this one? Now, first one we thought maybe he just rode by, seen him going. I think the VFW, I think this guy was riding the parking lots.
You think he was following people?
Yeah.
Could have.
Could be, I mean, it's an easy target, if that's what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I don't know.
But these
how he would know where they were going.
These incidences are happening approximately 3 weeks apart.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing they did determine.
That's right.
It was very, the timing was consistent.
Yeah. I think only one of them was like a day off or something.
Yeah.
But most of them are pretty much right on 3 weeks.
Yeah. So that's about the only thing they have to go on.
Mm-hmm. Just wait 3 weeks.
Yeah. But it could be somebody coming into town every 3 weeks. It could be somebody that, I don't know.
Yeah, it's odd.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the moon.
Phase of the moon?
I don't know. It don't recycle every 3 weeks.
It could be. I don't know. It's just weird.
It is odd. And before we get into that next murder, for the funerals of these people, they had 4 members of the Rhythmaires, including Atkins, were asked to be pallbearers.
That's cool.
And they come in and say it was a very sad and tearful day. And actually, that was the last show that they ever played. In her honor, they didn't play anymore.
Man.
They closed the Rhythmaires.
They was done, huh?
They went to rest with her.
Yeah.
In honor of her.
Just let it go.
Right.
Man.
And then several months later, they did find her saxophone. It was about half buried in some marsh out there, not far from where they found her.
Yeah, that's what's weird.
So it was there. So you think it was there the whole time, or somebody took it back?
I thought about that because, they would have searched this area pretty good.
You'd think. Well, once they found her, would they keep looking?
I'd be looking that whole area to see if I find any kind of evidence.
Right. So, yeah, said it wasn't far from where she was.
Fan out and start looking around, see what you can find.
I just wonder if once they found him, she was so far away. We didn't get into that either. She was like, what did you say, 2 miles?
Yeah.
So, and they didn't know which one was killed first. I would say he killed the guy first, and then maybe she got away and ran.
Take the thread out.
And then he took her and probably made her run, maybe,
yeah,
like the other girl, and she
could
got
have
that much farther away.
Yeah, you take out your strongest threat first.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just common sense.
That's the way it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I kind of think happened here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that happened, and maybe either he told her to run like he did the other one, if it's the same guy.
Yeah.
And there's questions about that, too.
So we're moving up to May the 3rd. This is the 4th incident, or the 5th murder.
Correct.
This was sometime a little bit before 9 p.m., and this one, Virgil Starks.
This is a little different.
He was 37 years old, and his wife, Katie, she was 36, and they were at home on their 500-acre farm off of Highway 67 East.
Man.
It was almost 10 miles northeast of Texarkana.
Mm-hmm.
And Virgil, he was at home sitting in his armchair reading the newspaper when he was shot twice in the back of the head from a closed double window.
Mm-hmm.
The assailant shot through the window and hit him twice in the head.
Right.
Man. But hearing the sound of broken glass, his wife Katie came from another room and saw Virgil stand up and then slump back into his chair.
I don't know about that. And I've seen 2 or 3 different accounts of that, where she was going to bed, told him she was going to bed, went in there and she was reading her magazine or whatever, and put on her gown or whatever, and heard that, and came back in there, and he was laying in the floor dead. I don't see him standing up. He's been shot in the head twice.
No.
Maybe he might have fell out of the chair. I don't, something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see him standing up.
Right.
But, I mean, stranger things have happened.
Yeah, I wasn't there.
Yeah. But when Katie realized that Virgil was dead, she ran to the crank telephone. This is when you had to pick up the receiver of the phone and turn a crank dial to
get the operator.
Get the operator, yeah.
Right.
But she was trying to call somebody, and she tried to call the police. and it rang twice before she was shot twice in the face from the same window.
Yeah. Yeah, the first shot went through her, like, her right cheek and came out near her left ear.
Man.
And then the second one come in and shattered her jaw, busted her teeth out, and lodged in a muscle under her tongue.
Yeah.
And in the movie, it's Mary Ann from Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, Dawn Wells, yeah.
Dawn Wells, yeah.
But she fell, but soon regained her footing and tried to get a pistol from another room and was blinded by her own blood.
Yeah, that's awful, man.
And Katie heard the killer at the back of the house and fled out the front door.
Yeah, he was trying to get through a screen, tired to get in.
Yeah. And she ran barefoot across the street to the home of her sister and brother-in-law, but no one was home, so she ran to a neighbor. His name was A.V. Prater, and she was hollering and saying that Virgil was dead and then collapsed.
Yeah, it'd be shocking.
That'd be a hell of a sight to see, man.
Yeah, covered in blood.
Somebody showing up at your house.
Shot in the face twice.
Yeah. But, you know, these incidents happening, this was striking fear in Texarkana.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, people were locking doors. They weren't going out at night. If you were going to anyone's house, you would call before you went and tell them you were on your way.
Yep.
And police, they didn't know what to do. The authorities had no clue. They were staking out these lovers' lanes.
Well, they were doing stuff, but it just wasn't doing any good.
No.
They wasn't finding out anything.
Mm-mm. They would even take cars to these lovers' lanes and put mannequins in them.
Yeah.
To try to
hide in the bushes and wait.
Yeah. And even police officers would go to these lovers' lanes and just sit.
Right. Take young-looking police officers and dress them up and put them in there, use them for bait.
I guess. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. He said, you know, after this, there's James Timberlake, who owned a hardware store, recorded the biggest seller he had after that was a screen door brace to keep people from breaking in houses now.
A screen door brace?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, that stopped somebody, won't it?
Right.
Yeah.
We'll brace the wood, but he'd already sold out of all the guns and ammunition.
Yeah.
And then everybody was buying locks, because I'm sure back then hardly anybody locked their doors, but after this, everybody was buying locks and locking up and anything they could do to keep people out.
Mm-hmm.
It was just terrorizing this territory.
Yeah. So, but they didn't stop some of the kids from going and parking.
Oh, no.
No.
People hard-headed.
No, there was one couple that was parking, and the police officer went up to them and knocked on the window and identified who he was, and the girl sitting in the car told him and said, "I'm glad you identified yourself, because I had a pistol right here with me."
That's crazy.
Yeah. Because I guess they did what they had to do.
Mm. Still had to go park, but just to get your gun.
Yeah.
Now, more than 300 suspects were brought in for questioning after this. People who were caught roaming the dark spots at night, anybody considered odd by their neighbors, hermits, loners, anybody who had a criminal record, anybody they thought could do anything, they questioned them.
Man.
It's crazy. There's just, like you said, there's just so much going on. And then rumors started flying around, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So responding to all these rumors, Captain Manuel Gonzalez of the Rangers and Bowie County Sheriff W.H. Presley joined in following press release. The Texarkana newspapers have cooperated with us through this investigation, and we intend to cooperate with them in furnishing them with the information they desire when the time comes for divulging that information. Newspapers are not printing rumors and have assured us that they will not. Any information the public hears about the case will not be official unless it comes from us or the newspapers. We will continue to work day and night on this investigation. We will appreciate information from citizens, and all such information will be treated confidentially. So they're trying to squash all these rumors, because everybody was telling on everybody. If they thought Joe over here pissed him off, well, he might be the killer.
Exactly.
Just anybody was thing. Now, in the meantime, the reward fund that was established by the city council members had went up a little bit, and with them, let's see, and also with Texarkana, the State National Banks, Southwestern Gas, Longhorn Company, Elks Lodge, Lions Club, Rotary Clubs, VFW, even the one where Betty Jo had played, the Otis Henry Post. All they went in and had run the reward up to about $4,200. Well, really $4,280.
Wow.
Which is $4,280 in 1945 is worth approximately $73,334 today.
That's a good chunk of change trying to get some information.
That's a hunk of change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, Dale, this fear was significant enough to spread to other cities and towns, including Hope, Lufkin, and Magnolia. And it spread as far as Oklahoma City, where there were sales spikes for guns and axes.
Mm-hmm.
And after 3 weeks without any associated murder, Texarkanans believe, this was getting over with. Nothing else was going to happen. But the concern lasted throughout the summer and subsided after 3 months had passed.
So it's kind of crazy to me. I don't know why he changes MO so much if it's the same guy.
I know. I mean, you go into lovers' lanes, then you go to somebody's house and shoot through a window.
Yeah. The first couple seems to me it's like somebody kind of getting a thrill of the hunt,
Mm-hmm.
But the one, when he shot the guy in the back of the head through the window, doesn't make sense to me to be in the same fella.
But the first attack was the only place I saw it where the assailant had a mask on, had like a pillowcase over his head with the eyes cut out.
Well, the other people are dead. They can't take it.
That's true. But I don't know if there's any witnesses anywhere that was...
The only one who may have a chance to see it would be the lady.
The couple at the house.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know that she, she probably saw her husband falling over on the floor or dead in the chair or whatever the case may be. If the dude was outside the window, he probably just shot at her too.
Very true.
Either that or trying to come in the door, so I don't know if she had ever seen him, ever seen the perpetrator.
She may not have.
She just heard the gunshots go off.
Now, on the night of May 10th, Texarkana City Police, they were alerted to a car that had been following a bus, and they chased it for 3 miles before shooting the tires and arresting C.J. Lauderdale Jr., a high school athlete. And when questioned at the station, he explained that he was unaware that police were there and they were driving an unmarked car. And he said he was following the bus because he was suspicious of a passenger that had entered from a private car. And on May the 12th, this Ranger Gonzalez gave a warning to teenage sleuths in the Gazette there, saying it's a good way to get killed.
Oh, of course.
Mm-hmm. But Dale, the law enforcement repeatedly challenged Larry's account. This was from the first attack.
Right, the first girl.
Yeah, believing that she and Hollis knew the identity of their attacker, like we talked about, and were covering for him.
I don't believe that.
Yeah. But Larry, she returned to Texarkana after the Griffin Moore murders in hopes of helping to link some of the cases and identify the killer. But the Texas Rangers questioned her story and insisted that she knew who her attacker was.
What the hell?
And officers did not publicly connect the Hollis-Larry attack to the subsequent murders until May the 11th, the day after the Texarkana Gazette published an interview with Larry. But in response to the Griffin Moore murders, police launched a citywide investigation along the Texas Arkansas Police and the Texas Department of Public Safety. And the Miller and Cass County Sheriff's Department and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which is the FBI, over 200 persons were questioned in the case. About the same number of false leads were checked. And 3 people found with bloody clothing were taken into custody, and all 3 were cleared of suspicion.
That's odd, ain't it?
Yeah, in the Martin Booker case, friends, acquaintances, and several suspects were questioned by the Bowie County investigators, who were working 24-hour shifts. And suspects were brought in as far away as 100 miles.
So they're just grabbing up everybody.
They are. They're just
Sounds
grabbing up everybody to try to find something that'll stick.
Yeah, anything.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, at this point, I'm sure the whole world's watching what the hell's going on down here, and they don't have a clue.
I know.
They got to find somebody,
But in the aftermath of the Starks murder, officers from the entire area were called upon to help them with the investigation. Blockades were effective on Highway 67 East, and those who had been driving in the area at the time of the slaying, along with several men found in the vicinity, were detained for questioning. And by May the 5th, 47 officers were working to solve the murder. And on May the 9th, a mobile radio station arrived with 20 Arkansas State police officers and a fleet of 10 prowl cars equipped with 2 to help coordinate the growing investigation. And on May the 11th, they installed a teletype machine in the Bowie County Sheriff's Office to connect with other law enforcement offices in Texas.
Right.
So
Which, all this stuff is weird to us because that's commonplace now, but, you know, back then this was a big deal.
But law enforcement back then, the different agencies, they didn't communicate.
Right.
Yeah, so they were bringing in the big guns to talk to each other, to communicate, to see if they can find anything out.
Very much so.
And the unofficial theory for the motive amongst the majority of officers investigating this was that it was of sex mania. That's what they're basing it on, because, you know, the first couple, the assailant didn't want any money.
Right.
Even when...
they told him he didn't have no money.
Yeah, but
it wasn't what he was after anyway.
Exactly. All right, Dale. The unidentified killer did not acquire a nickname until after the deaths of Booker and Martin. In the April 16th edition of the Texarkana Daily News, a heading read, "Phantom Killer Eludes Officers," as investigation of slayings pressed.
Which basically I think means they don't know who it is, the killer's still out there.
Exactly.
Instead of giving him a nickname, but it kind of that's why I said earlier that it kind of comes by, no, not really mistake, but not on purpose, I guess.
And the Texarkana Gazette contained a small title on April 17th, which read, "Phantom Slayer Still at Large," as probe continues.
So one writes a story with the Phantom Killer, and then the next one writes a story with the Phantom Slayer.
Yeah.
Which kind of like, to me, would mean Phantom as when we don't know who it is, instead of basically calling him the Phantom.
Yeah, just unknown.
But it just kind of named himself.
Exactly.
Well, not named himself, but
the paper named him, yeah.
Yeah, without even trying.
Now, J.Q. Mahaffey, he was the executive director of the Texarkana Gazette in 1946, said that the managing editor, his name was Calvin Sutton, had an acute sense for the dramatic, which implied him to ask if they could refer to the unknown murderer as the Phantom. And Mahaffey replied, "Why not? If the SOB continues to elude capture, he can certainly be called a Phantom."
True. Well, you know, plus you got to sell papers, man.
Now, Jimmy Hollis and Mary Jean Larry, these were the first two victims, you know, the ones that lived.
Right.
They were the only ones able to give a description of this attacker. And they described him, like we talked about before, as being 6 feet tall, wearing a white mask over his face with holes cut out for the eyes and mouth.
He had to be a pretty strong guy, too.
Yeah. Because, you know, wearing a mask, it's going to slow you down a little bit, because you're not going to be able to see real well.
Right.
You know,
the way he was throwing these kids around, the way he smashed them with that gun, it's pretty stout.
Yeah.
Especially if he was putting them in and out of cars, this kind of thing.
But with no description from the other incidents, it cannot be certain if the perpetrator or perpetrators were responsible, though it is generally assumed that the crimes were of a single individual.
Right. That's what most people think, but I don't know. That last one kind of, I don't know, it's kind of odd to me.
It is.
It's like, to me, it's almost like somebody's like, I can go take this guy out and they'll blame him. So he just went up and shot him through the head and in the back, in the window, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could be way off base, but that's just the way it seems to me.
You have to sort of put yourself in 1946 times. It was a simpler time, and they weren't people weren't sophisticated in crime like they are today.
Oh, no.
You know?
No, well, you said that when you said that the agencies didn't talk to each other.
No.
I mean, that's why you think back, wow, in the 70s and before, how many people got away with stuff, because, I mean, you could just go to another town and start all over, and they wouldn't even know anything about it.
That's right. But this Texas Ranger Gonzalez, he stated that he and his other rangers were dealing with a shrewd criminal who had left no stone unturned to conceal his identity and activities, and that the murderer's efforts were both clever and baffling, like I just mentioned.
Yeah.
He also stated that the man they were hunting was as cunning an individual and who would go to all lengths to avoid apprehension.
Well, duh.
Yep. At the Starks murder, this is the couple murdered in their home.
In the house.
Yeah, Officer Bill Presley said that the killer is the luckiest person I've ever known. No one sees him, no one hears him in time, or can identify him in any way. Officers have said that the killer is apparently a maniac who is an expert with a gun. Victim and survivor Hollis said, "I know he's crazy, that the crazy things he said make me feel that my mind was warped."
Well, if you think about it, man, this is right after the war, and guys are coming back home.
I wonder if he could have been
He could have been a veteran.
Yeah.
of something.
Yeah, but it seemed like to me, if this is the same killer, he's ramping up. It's getting more and more.
Yeah.
You know, because the first two weren't killed, then the others were killed, and then dragged out of the car, put back in the car, and then ones after that were shot in through the window in the house.
Right.
All right, now there was a psychologist. His name was Dr. Anthony LaPalla. He worked for the Federal Correctional Institute in Texarkana, and he believed at the time that the killer was planning to continue to make unexpected attacks, such as that of Virgil Starks on the outskirts of town. He also believed that the same person committed all 5 murders, and that the killer was somewhere between his mid-30s and his 50s, and apparently motivated by a strong sex drive and sadism. And this Dr. LaPalla stated that the person who would commit such crimes was intelligent, clever, and shrewd, and often was not apprehended.
Well, duh.
Yeah.
Oh, you could probably ask anybody what they thought, who it was next. Well, somebody between their 30s and 50s, and
that's a big range.
That didn't want to get caught.
Yeah. This was like criminal profiling before criminal profiling.
Right.
Yeah.
But a really wide variant, though.
Yeah, but according to this Dr. LaPalla, his theories, the killer was not afraid of the police activity, but was aware of the increased difficulty of attacking people on vacant roads and lovers' lanes. So he had shifted his target to the farmhouse.
Well, that kind of, yeah, I can see that. Especially if he knew, that they're, like we said, they were setting up decoys and all this stuff and watching the roads and roadblocks.
Mm-hmm.
That would kind of give you a reason for why he would go somewhere else, but he's not getting the same thrill out of this.
I know.
What is chasing some girl down the road to assault her got to do with shooting an older man in the back of the head?
It has nothing to do with it.
To me, it don't make sense.
Because it was those other ones were sexually motivated.
Right.
But now get this. This Dr. LaPalla also said this killer could be leading a normal life and was likely a veteran, like you mentioned, and was not necessarily a resident of the area despite his knowledge of it. He also stated that the attacks show evidence of deep planning and that the killer works alone and tells no one of his crimes.
I can believe that.
But throughout the investigations, the Phantom Killer's case, almost 400 suspects were arrested.
Crazy.
Yeah, there were numerous false confessions investigated by police. They recalled 9 people who confessed to being the Phantom, but their statements didn't agree with the facts.
That blows my mind. Why in the hell would you want to go say that's me?
I know.
What are you going to get out of besides prison?
Nothing.
Besides everybody wanting to kill you. Vigilantes in the streets and stuff.
I know.
Something. I don't know. It didn't make any sense to me.
So the first suspect, his name was Yule Sweeney. He spelled his first name Youell, Sweeney. Now, he was a 29-year-old car thief and counterfeiter. And he was arrested in July of that year after being investigated for car thefts, after realizing that on the night of the Griffin Moore murders, a car had been stolen in the area, and a previously stolen car had been found abandoned. Now, officers were able to locate the former car and arrested Sweeney and his wife Peggy when she came to retrieve it. And Peggy confessed in great detail that Yule Sweeney was the Phantom Killer and had killed Booker and Martin. And her story changed in some details across some of the interviews, and police believed that she was holding some information due to Sweeney and actually incriminating herself.
Yeah.
But the police were independently able to verify some of Peggy's confession, such as the location of the victim and the possessions, and where she said Yule had discarded them.
Right.
And there was also considerable circumstantial evidence against Yule Sweeney, but Peggy's confession was the most critical part of the case, and Peggy recanted some of her confession, and it was considered unreliable as a witness, and she could not be compelled to testify against her husband.
Right. So it didn't matter anyway.
Exactly.
Now, there was one time where she said that she at one of the places where she had stood and watched her, she had stood down and they did find a heel print of a lady's shoe at this particular place that did match up, but whether it was hers or not is unknown.
Exactly.
But it's kind of odd that she said she was there and it was a heel print.
Yeah. There was also a man, his name was H.B. Tennyson, but he had a nickname, Duty. Duty, yeah. He was an 18-year-old university freshman who died by suicide on November 4th, 1948. And he left behind a cryptic instructions which directed investigators to a suicide note in which Tennyson confessed to the Booker, Martin, and Stark murders. And he played trombone in the same high school band as Booker. But they were not friends. And investigators were unable to find any other evidence linking Duty Tennyson to the murders. Now, James Freeman, he was a friend of Tennyson, provided an alibi for the night of the Stark murders, stating that he had been playing cards that evening when he heard the news of the attack. So he had somewhat of an alibi, but I don't know if it's just somebody saying they were with him when they really weren't.
Right.
And there was another suspect. His name was Ralph Bowman. He was a 21-year-old ex-Army Air Force machine gunner, and he claimed to have awoken from a fugue state of several weeks on the day of the Stark murders with his rifle missing. He said that he heard about the suspect matching his description and hitchhiked to Los Angeles, California, and feeling like he was running from a murder. And on May the 23rd, he told Los Angeles police that he thought he might be the Phantom. I am my own suspect, is what he said.
Weird.
Yeah, and police arrested him, but this Gonzalez, the handsome Gonzalez, stated that after several parts of the man's story, he had little basis in fact. Bowman said that he had been discharged from the Air Force from being a psychoneurotic, and he had previously confessed to killing 3 people in Texarkana in a period of 3 days, but it didn't match any of the timeline of the killings.
He's weird. I don't know about this. He's another one of those that just kind of woke up from one day and said, I might be a killer.
Yep. And there was another one. This was the saxophone guy that we talked about that was trying to pawn the saxophone, yeah. But he was cleared.
Even though they found him, like you said, he ran out of the store after he tried to sell it when she wanted him to talk to the manager. They did track him down, and they found him and actually found out he had bought a 45 pistol from another pawn shop and also had a big bag of bloody clothes in his hotel room.
Well, that's not weird.
No, not at all. But then he said that it came from being in a bar fight. But it's like, God dang, I don't know about that. It's a lot of people, they find them with bags and bloody clothes in their house.
Yeah, I guess around Texarkana, you just got bags of bloody clothes sitting around everywhere.
Maybe in 45, everybody didn't have a washing machine, I guess.
Yep.
I don't know.
Now, there's another guy. His name was Earl McSpadden. And on May the 7th, at approximately 6 a.m., his body was found on the Kansas City Southern Railway tracks. This was about 16 miles north of Texarkana near Ogden. And his body's left arm and leg had been severed by a freight train a half hour earlier. And the coroners stated death at the hands of persons unknown, and that he was dead before being placed on the railroad tracks. And because the murder is unsolved, locals have speculated that Earl McSpadden was the Phantom's 6th victim. And a prominent rumor exists that Earl McSpadden was the Phantom and had committed suicide by jumping from the train.
Well, if he's dead before he got run over, he didn't suicide himself by jumping in front of a train.
No, you don't suicide yourself after you're dead.
Is that the way you say that? Suicide yourself?
Yes. We just made it a thing. But Dale, this is still unsolved today.
It is.
There's and it just stopped as quick as it started.
Yeah. I mean, after all this stuff, even, back going when the murder happened at the house, they came in on that place, and they brought in dogs and all this stuff. They went around checking out everything, and even the dogs, like they found a scent, run them out, and they found tons of fingerprints in that house. Yes. And, the dogs took off, and they followed the thing, and then it just disappeared. So, probably got in the car and left or whatever, I don't know. But it's just weird that they find stuff, but nothing goes anywhere.
I know.
And it's this whole thing, like you said, it started, and then it stopped, and then that's it. Yeah. We don't know anything more, really.
But this.
I know it's kind of been a simplified episode here, but there ain't a whole lot more that we could find that really adds a lot. There's a lot of maybe, but.
Yeah. You could spend days on this, digging all the little rabbit holes and going down different paths and stuff on this.
But, yeah, but
It's still unsolved, man. They don't have a clue, and all the information they have, a lot of it's been held back.
Yeah.
But I think today, I told you earlier that this case could have been solved today if it happened.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm still open to air whether I think it's the same person.
Yeah. Just wonder if he could have got fingerprints from the shell casings.
Well, they got fingerprints. They just didn't have nobody to match them to.
Yeah. Or matched them up to the, if he was at the house of the Starks when he was shooting through the window, if he could have.
Yeah, they got fingerprints there. They said they did. Tons of them is what it said.
I just wonder if they matched.
Apparently not. They'd have somebody if it matched.
Yeah. Or matched from the shell casing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Right.
Determine if it was the same person.
Yeah, that'd make sense.
They just not telling. They never did tell that stuff.
No.
But this incident that happened there in Texarkana, it sparked a 1976 film, man, that we talked about.
Right. The
Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy movie.
Yeah, I thought it was decent.
Yeah, for 1976.
Yeah. Which, I like old horror movies. So.
Yeah. And we're going to have to go back and watch the Lon Chaney movie.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess I'll go ahead and watch the 2014 version to see what the difference is. Because when I started to watch, when I first pulled them up, I was going to watch it first. I'm like, well, no, I want to go back and watch the original one. That would be best, I think. And then after that, I started to watch the second one, but it was started out with excerpts from the first one. So I'm like, wait a minute, I don't even know what's going on here. So I had to call a timeout.
Mm-hmm.
And then watch something else. They still watch this movie every year out there.
They do?
Yeah, and yeah, they do. And like festivals and stuff, Halloween stuff, like they all go up and watch this movie.
Because this is about our town.
Yeah. It's kind of creepy if you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, we're going to go here and watch this movie in the park about everybody getting killed in their town.
But anyway, Dale, that is the Texarkana Murders, the Phantom Killer, the
Town That Dreaded Sundown.
That's it. Still unsolved today.
Still unsolved.
Yep. All right, bud. That's for Dale from Shelby.
That's it.
All right. We're going to get out of here, bud.
All right, let's roll.
We want everyone to be safe. Please be careful and always be aware of your surroundings.
Because the next episode could be about you.
This is the Crack House Chronicles.